Alert! NATO's nightmare scenario just became real. The clock is ticking. What I'm about to reveal will shake your understanding of global security. The highest levels of NATO command have just confirmed their worst fear: a coordinated dual-strike scenario that could split Western defenses within hours. Think this is just another war game? Think again. NATO Secretary General himself just exposed what military analysts have been whispering about for months. China and Russia are rehearsing a simultaneous strike strategy, one that could paralyze Western response capabilities. But here's what should really worry you. Our defense spending isn't even close to what's needed. The numbers don't lie. We're sitting at 3% when experts say we need 3.5% minimum. And that gap? It's not closing, it's widening. Let me show you why this matters to your family right now. While we're debating budgets, Beijing and Moscow are having closed-door meetings. They're calling it a partnership without limits. But here's what they're not telling you. Every time these leaders meet, our satellite data shows increased military activity on both fronts. The evidence is hiding in plain sight. Russia's been using its conflict with its western neighbor as a testing ground, while China's been studying every move. They're not just watching, they're learning, adapting, preparing. But here's the twist that nobody's talking about. Our own intelligence suggests our response capabilities are compromised. If attacks came simultaneously from both directions, our current systems would be overwhelmed. And the most disturbing part? Our adversaries know this. Let's break down what this means for you. While politicians debate numbers, the real threat is already in motion. The next phase isn't about if, it's about when. We're tracking disturbing developments right now. Write in the comments if you've noticed military transport increasing in your area. The pattern we're seeing is unlike anything in the past decade. Stay with me as we expose what's really behind these movements, and why the official channels are staying suspiciously quiet about it. Let's zoom out for a moment and see what's really happening on the global chessboard. NATO's defense spending revelations are just the tip of a very dangerous iceberg. Multiple intelligence sources are now confirming what many analysts have feared. We're witnessing unprecedented levels of military coordination between Beijing and Moscow. Think about it. While Western attention is divided between multiple hotspots, both powers are systematically upgrading their nuclear arsenals. China's warhead count is approaching peer status with Russia and the United States, a game-changing development that's barely making headlines. But here's what should really keep you up at night: the possibility of synchronized military actions. Imagine Taiwan and a NATO country being challenged simultaneously. Western military planners are scrambling to address this nightmare scenario, but their response capabilities are severely constrained by budget shortfalls and political uncertainty. Speaking of uncertainty, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Trump's stance on NATO has sent shockwaves through the alliance's command structure. Behind closed doors, European leaders are questioning America's reliability as a security partner. Some are already exploring alternative defense arrangements, a shift that could reshape the entire global security architecture. Meanwhile, Iran's nuclear program continues to advance, adding another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. Recent satellite imagery suggests significant progress at key facilities, while diplomatic channels remain deadlocked. What's particularly concerning is the pattern emerging from these developments. We're seeing a systematic challenge to Western military dominance, not through direct confrontation, but through carefully calculated pressure points. The question isn't if these pressure points will be activated, but when and in what sequence. The real story here isn't about individual conflicts. It's about the complete transformation of the global security landscape. And what we're learning about recent military exercises near the Arctic Circle suggests something even more disturbing. But before we get to that shocking revelation, the geopolitical chessboard continues to reveal complex moves that demand our attention. Let's analyze what's really happening beneath the surface. Trump's relationship with NATO remains a critical point of concern. Despite reassurances from some quarters, his stance on defending NATO members appears conditional, shifting from 2% to now 3.5% or even 5% of GDP for defense spending. This creates uncertainty in the alliance at a time when unity is crucial. What's particularly interesting is Trump's persistent friendly attitude toward Putin, despite the ongoing conflict in the northern Black Sea region. While he's expressed disappointment about the continuation of hostilities in the disputed territory between Russia and the West, he hasn't pushed for stronger sanctions or taken a harder line. The situation becomes even more intricate when we consider Israel's position. Netanyahu's upcoming meeting with Trump brings Iran's nuclear threat into sharp focus. For Israel, this isn't just another diplomatic issue, it's existential. As former Israeli leader Sharon pointed out, with Israel's small size, even a limited nuclear strike could be catastrophic. The recent strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities represent a significant escalation, though they're strategically separate from the Gaza situation. However, there's a compelling argument that regime change in Tehran could create conditions for broader regional stability. Think about it. Iran's influence extends across multiple conflict zones, from the politically turbulent area bordering Russia to Gaza. A fundamental shift in Iranian leadership could reshape the entire regional dynamic. What we're seeing is a complex interplay of alliances, deterrence, and strategic calculations. The decisions made in Washington today could have far-reaching implications for global security architecture. What do you think about these developments? Do you see connections between these seemingly separate conflicts that others might miss? Share your analysis in the comments. Your perspective helps us all understand these complex situations better. The situation in Gaza reflects a complex web of regional tensions, where short-term solutions appear more feasible than lasting peace. We're looking at a potential scenario where Israel might secure a limited ceasefire, lasting 30 to 60 days, in exchange for a prisoner swap. This would involve the return of Israeli hostages, both living and deceased, and the release of approximately 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. However, the fundamental conflict remains unresolvable. Hamas demands a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza as part of any permanent ceasefire, a condition Israel categorically refuses. This deadlock illustrates the deeper challenges in achieving lasting stability in the region. Shifting to Iran, we're witnessing a critical situation that directly impacts global security. Trump's position on nuclear negotiations with Iran highlights a crucial impasse. His demands for zero uranium enrichment and comprehensive international inspections clash directly with Tehran's quarter-century stance. Iran insists on maintaining domestic uranium enrichment capabilities and has effectively expelled IAEA inspectors. The Gulf states' reported willingness to cooperate on civilian nuclear development appears inconsequential given these fundamental disagreements. Any potential nuclear deal faces insurmountable obstacles, making negotiations essentially futile. This situation becomes even more concerning when considering broader regional stability. Offering Iran any economic or political concessions at this juncture could severely undermine strategic positions. The timing for such overtures is particularly problematic, especially given Iran's increasing assertiveness and rejection of international oversight. These developments suggest a potentially volatile period ahead, with implications stretching far beyond the Middle East. The interconnected nature of these conflicts highlights the delicate balance of global security interests. What do you think about the current situation with Iran? Leave your answer in the comments. The Iranian nuclear situation remains a critical concern for global security. Looking at the historical record, Tehran's pattern of behavior speaks volumes. For 15 years before the 2015 deal, they maintained an uncompromising stance on independent nuclear development. That agreement, pushed through by the Obama administration, proved to be a strategic miscalculation that we shouldn't repeat. The core issue here is verification. Can we genuinely prevent covert uranium enrichment? The track record suggests otherwise. Even after signing the 2015 agreement, Iranian authorities consistently blocked International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors from accessing key military sites, locations suspected of housing weaponization programs for highly enriched uranium. We're dealing with a regime that's mastered the art of concealment. Consider the possibility of underground facilities, perhaps even collaborating with North Korea in hidden mountain complexes. These scenarios aren't far-fetched given past behaviors. As the saying goes, trust but verify. Except here, verification itself is systematically obstructed. However, recent developments warrant attention. The targeted action against Iranian assets has reportedly achieved its intended effect, setting back their nuclear ambitions. Similarly, NATO's recent commitment to increased defense spending signals a potential shift in Western strategic positioning. This brings us to a broader question about U.S. leadership. While concerns about policy direction persist, we're seeing tangible results in some areas. The administration's firm stance on Iran appears to be yielding strategic benefits, though long-term implications remain unclear. The coming months will be crucial in determining whether these apparent successes translate into lasting security improvements. We must maintain vigilance, especially given Iran's historical pattern of deception and their persistent nuclear ambitions. What do you think about the current situation with Iran? Leave your answer in the comments. The global chess game continues to reveal concerning moves from key players. Ambassador Bolton's critique of the presidential strategy on Iran hits a crucial point. Making promises of permanent peace deals that can't materialize only emboldens Tehran's waiting game. They're betting on outlasting current pressures, which weakens our negotiating position. Even more troubling is the defense spending situation within NATO. Despite strong rhetoric, the U.S. budget starting this October shows no meaningful increase beyond 3%. We're far from the needed 3.5% target, and this gap in funding creates vulnerabilities our adversaries are surely noting. But perhaps the most sobering analysis comes from Admiral Mark Montgomery regarding potential coordinated actions between Moscow and Beijing. The scenario of simultaneous aggressive moves, one targeting Taiwan, another aimed at European territories, represents a nightmare scenario for Western defense capabilities. Such a strategy would deliberately strain NATO's response capacity, forcing difficult choices about resource allocation. NATO's Secretary-General Stoltenberg didn't mince words when he referred to Moscow as Beijing's junior partner, a characterization that likely irritates the Kremlin. However, this partnership, despite its power imbalance, poses a serious strategic challenge. The coordination between these authoritarian powers could exploit gaps in Western defensive preparations. The situation demands a clear-eyed assessment of our readiness. With defense spending stagnating and potential threats multiplying, we're facing a critical junction. The ability to respond effectively to simultaneous challenges from Russia and China isn't just a theoretical exercise. It's becoming an urgent strategic necessity. These developments signal a shifting global order where traditional assumptions about deterrence and response capabilities need serious recalibration. The West's military planning must evolve to address these emerging scenarios. What's your assessment of this potential Russia-China coordination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters in understanding these complex developments. The global chessboard is becoming increasingly complex, with multiple players making simultaneous moves that could trigger catastrophic consequences. Let's analyze the potential for coordinated actions between major powers that could reshape the world order. Consider this scenario. China launches operations against Taiwan, while Russia increases pressure on NATO's eastern flank. This isn't just theoretical. It's a nightmare scenario that military strategists are actively planning for. The critical point here isn't just about direct military confrontation, but rather the sophisticated interplay of hybrid warfare tactics. Russia, for instance, doesn't need to launch a full-scale invasion to create significant problems. They've mastered the art of gray zone operations, those activities that fall below the threshold of conventional warfare, but can paralyze decision-making processes. Think about how they could manufacture a crisis by claiming infiltration from Baltic states, or create tension along NATO borders without firing a single shot. This strategy mirrors previous successful operations, like the Crimean scenario of 2014. The playbook is clear: create confusion, claim protection of ethnic populations, and establish facts on the ground before the international community can respond effectively. What makes this particularly dangerous is the potential for miscalculation. When multiple crisis points erupt simultaneously, the ability of Western powers to respond effectively becomes severely compromised. The U.S. military, despite its global reach, would face unprecedented challenges in managing concurrent crises in both the European and Pacific theaters. The real question isn't whether such scenarios could lead to World War III. It's about how we can prevent these powers from believing they have a window of opportunity to act. This requires not just military preparedness, but also strategic clarity and unwavering alliance solidarity. What makes this situation even more precarious is the evolving nature of warfare itself. Traditional concepts of territorial invasion are being supplemented by cyber attacks, economic warfare, and information operations. What do you think about this scenario? Leave your point of view in the comments. I believe my viewers are thoughtful and smart, and I want to hear your take. The familiar pattern we've seen before. Claims about protecting Russian speakers, echoing the successful Crimean scenario. This tested strategy raises critical questions about NATO's preparedness and Western response capabilities. Let's examine the recent NATO developments. While there's celebration around the 5% agreement, we need to look deeper. Two major players, Spain and, more importantly, the United States, have effectively stepped back from these commitments. Though not formally withdrawn like Spain, the American position is clear through Trump's statements opposing the 3.5% target. The numbers tell an interesting story. U.S. defense spending sits at 3.02% of GDP for 2024-2025. Yes, we'll see a brief spike to 3.3% in 2026, but by 2027, it's projected to drop to 2.8%, unless major political shifts occur. This trajectory sends a clear message to European NATO members. They must meet their 3.5% commitments. Here's where it gets concerning. The axis of authoritarian states might coordinate their actions, as some analysts predict. In such a scenario, America's ability to support European operations would be severely constrained. Why? Because the U.S. holds an irreplaceable role in defending Taiwan. No other nation can fill those shoes. Europe's 31 NATO members collectively match U.S. economic power. Their combined GDP rivals America's, which means their defense spending should theoretically approach U.S. levels. This becomes crucial when considering potential simultaneous challenges across different theaters. The White House understands these dynamics, but serious concerns persist about NATO's actual readiness and the alliance's ability to respond effectively to coordinated threats from multiple directions. What do you think about NATO's current defensive capabilities? Can Europe step up if America's attention is divided? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm particularly interested in your views on how this might affect global security.